I'm excited to be here.
Yes. Are you ready to rock?
Born ready.
I love it. Okay, let's do this. On today's episode of the CLS Experience, we have a very special treat. Simply put, she is the queen of confidence and a badass entrepreneur. She's the best-selling author of one of my personal favorite books, Confidence Creator. She's a Glass Ceiling Award winner, TEDx speaker, and the founder of the explosive Boss in Heels brand. She's the host of the outstanding podcast, Creating Confidence. She's just an overall juggernaut in all facets of life and a terrific human being. Please welcome the iconic Heather Monahan. How you doing, Heather?
Wow, love the intro. Thanks for having me, Craig.
I did good by you?
I like it. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, good. And like I was saying earlier before we hopped on air, I know we both have done a lot of these. We'll keep this fresh. I'm a little bit weird and I embrace all of that. We'll have a lot of fun and you have my word. We will absolutely manufacture magic together here today.
Let's do it.
Before we get deep, I'm going to start off a little weird. You ready for me?
Sure.
Okay. Heather, simply put, what is your superpower?
My gosh, I have a few, I have to tell you. The more I reflect on this, I guess speaking and connecting with an audience is something that has come natural to me my entire life, but I didn't realize other people didn't have it. I just assumed everybody could do it, because if you can do something, you just think, oh, everyone can do that, no big deal. And so I didn't think of anything of that talent because when I was in corporate America, part of my responsibility as a VP of sales and a chief revenue officer was I had to speak at events all around the country, but you didn't get paid. It was just, this is part of your job and your responsibility. So I really discredited speaking. And then I'll never forget, a friend of mine challenged me to go to a stand-up comedy club and take a class. And I did not want to do it. I said, I'm too busy. This is crazy. I don't want to be a comedian. And he said, the point is you're having this visceral reaction. You don't want to do it so much that there's something there for you if you go. So I did appreciate that perspective. And I said, okay, I made a friend of mine go with me. Thank goodness. And it was the weirdest thing. I mean, they make you crawl around like an animal, do animal noises, all these weird exercises. And it was definitely not my comfort zone. However, one week they had us get up and do an exercise where they said, stand up on stage alone and speak. And you could speak about anything, right? You could talk about your childhood. You could talk about teaching sales. You could talk about what's happening in technology, anything you want. So it's super easy. However, it wasn't. The majority of the class froze, couldn't do it. And I was sitting there watching and I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, this is crazy. I'm going to crush it up there. And so as soon as I took the mic, I just went, they had to tell me to stop. They said, you passed the time limit. They said, you could have kept going. I said, oh yeah, I could talk for as long as you need me to, hour, 2 hours, whatever, it's fine. And so that night I went home and I wrote down in my journal, my superpower is the ability to speak without notice and connect with an audience. And since then, obviously I've moved into that being a big part of my revenue generation for my business. And it's crazy.
Yeah. And there's something really deep and profound amongst the obvious of what you just spoke about. You said something along the lines of this: when you're really scared and petrified to do something, there's something there for you. That's so valuable.
Yeah, I've chosen now to see, this is now, before I did not think this way, but I choose to see fear as a green light that means go and go faster. So anytime I feel it, whether it's to take the TEDx stage and go out there, I was scared to death. I knew all I have to do is get myself out there, just go. Launching my own podcast felt scary right at first, or reading the Audible version of my book, which I had never done, scary, right? All these things were scary. And here I am, in hindsight, looking back and saying, wow, there was so much reward for stepping into the fear.
100%. And I always tell my clients that as well. Like, when you get that feeling, it usually means you're on the verge of doing something epic. And that's really where the real growth happens, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love it. Heather, what is something interesting about you that a lot of people might not know?
Something interesting. Oh, here's something interesting. I started working when I was super young. I grew up poor and my mom had 3 jobs. She was a single mother with 4 kids. So I started delivering newspapers when I was 10 years old. I had a paper route. And then that morphed into becoming a busboy at a diner. And then I landed a job at a fast food joint, working the window and then the fryer. And then I got into waitressing, which led to bartending, which ultimately, now that I look back, it was this progression over 20 years of me refining and honing my sales skills and ability to interface and interact and drive revenue with people.
I love it. And it all makes that, like they would say, you can't connect the dots looking forwards, only backwards. Kind of looking at your journey now, looking back, it all makes sense.
It all makes sense now, but it made
I know.
0 sense back then. Zero.
I understand completely. Heather, describe yourself in 3 words.
Energetic.
Yes.
That's the first one that comes to mind. Powerful.
Yes.
And caring.
Ooh, those are great. Especially the energetic one. It's very obvious. I'm sure the audience can tell right away. Your energy is very contagious. I'm sure I'm not the first person to tell you that.
No, it's funny. I am told that all the time. And that's why I hesitated when you asked me what my superpower is, because I do vacillate between the two. I would say my energy is a superpower, but that for some people that sounds so ambiguous, woo-woo, whatever. So I tend to use, the speaking is a little bit more tangible. But
Yeah.
no, I'm told that all of the time. And people ask me, how do you bottle that? How can I get that? And I said, listen, if I can figure that out, I will be a billionaire. So I'm working on a solution.
Your answer was perfect. I loved it because the easy answer would have been confidence, right? But you took us on a little bit of a ride. So I love that.
Yeah, but you know what? Here's the thing. And that's funny that you bring that up, Craig. And a lot of people bring that up. People assume I'm a confidence expert because I have a book out, called Confidence Creator. Here's the thing though, I'm not an expert in confidence. And I was messaging with you back and forth on this. I've been doing this for the past 3 years, right? Where I've been an entrepreneur and building this business and writing the books and creating the podcast and speaking. However, my real expertise is in sales and sales leadership. That's what I did for 25 years in corporate America. I'm a rookie. I'm only 3 years in. So I'm a rookie at this whole confidence concept. And, I'm constantly stepping into fear because I'm learning things that are new. It's funny. I signed a deal with HarperCollins Leadership for my new book that's coming out in November. And writing with them has been a completely different experience versus being a self-published author. So I'm a rookie for the first time working in the publishing world right now. And the challenges that come up are fast and furious. And my confidence is tested daily. I got a note the other day. We need another round of edits with this team. And I'm like, who are these? I don't even know who these people are. And why wasn't it good enough last time? But again, I just don't have experience doing it. So I'm constantly challenging my own confidence and challenging myself to grow.
Fair enough. I love that. I appreciate all of that. And of course, because I'm such a fan, I know a lot about you, but also preparation breeds confidence. You mentioned your new book coming out. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's leapfrogging from villains.
Okay, that's funny. No, it's not, but I appreciate that you did. No, yeah, it's changed. It's so funny with when you self-publish,
Okay.
you create the name, right? So I wrote down confidence creator, that's it, boom, we're done and we're moving forward. When you publish with a publishing house, a traditional publisher, what happens is you get a vote, right? And my vote was I voted for leapfrogging villains. That's what I wanted the title to be. And they didn't like it. And they came up with 7 different possible titles. And then what they do is they take your title, mix it in with all of their titles, and they go out to marketplace to gain data, research to find out what people will actually gravitate towards or like. And so they tested, hundreds of people, random people, general population, on these 10 different titles. And the number 1 winning title by far was not mine. Mine did not win. Mine was like in the middle, maybe ranked 5th. The number 1 winner was Overcome Your Villains. And that's the name of my new book.
Also awesome. But I have a feeling we haven't heard the last of leapfrogging from villains. I feel like you'll use it in some fashion down the road.
Yeah, I use it in the book too. I actually used it's a chapter in my first book. And the reason why I wanted to take that was I got so much feedback on that one chapter. People would send me notes. I love leapfrogging. So I was like, there's something here. I hear about it. Like people, it clicked with them. They got it. And so that's why I wanted to use it for the second one. But I do believe data doesn't lie. And when they took the time to poll that many people, I said, you know what, the truth is in the numbers. Let's go.
The numbers don't lie, as they say.
That's right.
Heather, what makes you feel most alive?
I love to work out. Like I'm crazy into working out. If I don't work out, I'm in a bad mood. I took my son away this weekend, and just getting to run outside, be outside near the ocean and be working out that is, oh my gosh, I'm so happy when I'm doing that. I'm so happy when I spend time with my son. I love being with friends, and I'm definitely an extroverted person. So the last year for me has been pure hell. Like this goes down as the year that I'm so glad is in the rear view. I don't like staying home. I'm not an introvert. So I'm definitely most alive with other people, outside and moving.
Bang. I knew we were aligned, but this is even deeper than I imagined. Same thing with me. That's my outlet. I absolutely love it. I'm actually I just started training. Yesterday was day one for the Chicago Marathon, which I'm super excited about. You mentioned running. Are you a runner? You ran marathons, stuff like that, or more just for fun?
No, I always was an athlete, coming up in school and in college and whatnot. But when I got into corporate America, I really pivoted towards, working ridiculous hours, not healthy and not working out enough. And then when I got back to it, when you're in your 30s and getting into 40s, you can't hit it back as hard as you did before. And so I ended up throwing my back out, had all kinds of issues. So then I couldn't run for a while, and they told me I was never going to run again. However, I went to a rehab here in Miami. They were amazing PTs, and they worked with me for months. And then they showed me this really amazing treadmill that you get into these pants that blow up with air, and it elevates you so that you don't compress your back. So I was able to run, which I never thought I was gonna be able to do again, on this crazy air treadmill. And it was the happiest day of my life. But once I tasted that, I said, I'm gonna run again. If I can run in this machine, I can run in real life. Maybe not today, but I will run. And I did. So it took, probably another year of a lot of work on my back, stability and core and whatnot, stretching. But no, I am back running, but you won't see me running any marathons, but I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. I appreciate it. As long as you can get back out there, clear your head a little bit, and have some fun. That's what it's all about.
Exactly.
Heather, what is your definition of success?
I mean, success is a multitude of things, right? It's having your health, which I think everybody recognizes now is paramount to everything. It's really the foundation of everything. So having your health, having your family, the people around you safe and cared for, doing something that you love, not just going in to collect a paycheck, right? Because everyone's got to pay their bills. I get it. But for a long time, I did things that made rich people richer and didn't fulfill me internally. However, it made my bank account big, right? So I've learned through doing it the wrong way that connecting with your passion and purpose, even though it may seem challenging at first, you might say, how am I going to make money doing that? That there's no job that says I can, I like working with kids. You can't become rich doing that. The thing for me that I've learned is real success is moving into your passion, your purpose with the right people, good people that support you, that cheer you on, that stretch you to grow. And kind of developing and finding that way. And it's not easy, right? But if success was easy, everybody would have it.
I absolutely love it. Couldn't have said it better myself. I agree with everything that you touch upon. It's not all about money. As we go through life, sometimes we learn that and we realize it. That passion, what sets your soul on fire, that fulfillment, that's what it's all about. It's what you'll remember.
Listen, money's important too. I'm definitely not someone who's like, there's people who like selling all of the material goods and living in a campground. That's not me. So to me, I want to make a lot of money. I want to have wealth, because the more wealth you have, the more time you have, you can do good deeds. You can help other people,
Exactly.
you can elevate others. So I definitely believe money's freedom. And if you're someone who does good work and gives back, then it's great for you to make a lot of money, because you can do even more good in the world.
Absolutely great. All right, before we jump around, because I know the audience is going to hear all about the beginning stage and so forth, we're going to get deep. You ready?
Of course.
When did you officially become Heather 2.0?
Heather 2.0. I have to think about that. Heather 2.0. I mean, a big pivotal time for me was when I got fired, right? That was August 1st, 2017. But I didn't become a different version of myself overnight. I would say more that from that time, Q3, Q4, 2017, until probably Q3, Q4 2019, over that 2 year window, I went through massive change, right? I became an author. I left sales and sales leadership, which I never thought I was even allowed to do. I went out and did something I'd never done, wrote a book. I launched a podcast. I launched a speaking career, which I didn't even know was a thing. I launched so many different things and showed up so many different places that were completely uncomfortable for me. That whole window of time is really the evolution of becoming a different, it's, I'm still the same person, but I'm definitely a way more courageous version of myself now, who doesn't really care what other people think of me. And that's not who I was back in 2017.
Fair enough. I love it. And like you said, like you're still the same person, but you've evolved, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Big change.
And even like relationships, whether it be a partner or even just like friends, right? Like you gravitated towards a certain type of person years back, and that's not the same type of person that's going to gravitate towards you today because of the person that you are now, which I believe is your best self and so forth. So just is what it is. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, that part's hard. I remember when I first got fired, they shut the company that I had worked for, I had a company phone, they shut it off immediately and reported it stolen. And I freaked out. I thought, oh my gosh, how's anyone going to find me? How's anyone going to call me? I mean, I literally thought the world was ending. I was in crisis mode when this happened. It's really, it's uncomfortable. How am I going to figure this out? One more problem. But something interesting happened with that issue of the phone being shut off. I realized fast the people that truly loved me and were my real friends would find me. They'd go to social media, they'd DM me, they would be relentless in finding me with a new phone number because I didn't have their numbers backed up back then. I just, whatever, I didn't have it.
Relentless. I love it.
They would be relentless in finding me, and they were. Then there was this huge faction of, the contacts that I had on my phone that just disappeared. And it was this moment where I realized, wow, sometimes you're surrounded with a lot of people that you think are your champions or, your supporters, but they're not. They're there because of your title or what you can get them or, what they think you represent. And the minute your job or position changes, you change in their mind. So for me, in a really quick window of time, I was able to get rid of what I call villains, people who aren't really transparent with you, who really aren't supporting you, and see the people who really were gravitating towards me to be a part of my team.
Yeah, I love that. It's so deep and so valuable for the audience. And when I was doing some homework on you, you said something along the lines of like people sometimes associate you or your status based upon your paycheck or what job title you have, something like that, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I did as well, right? So when you get in this habit of being in corporate America and it's just a routine, it's what you know. That's all I knew. I always worked for somebody else. I never thought of working for myself. I didn't even know, it wasn't a thing when I was younger. People didn't talk about being an entrepreneur, right? Like Gary Vaynerchuk is the poster boy for that, but he's in his late 40s. This is, again, not something that was popular back in the day. And so being younger in corporate America, I always aspired to get to the top. I wanted to be in the C-suite. I could see myself taking those steps. So I put tremendous value and tremendous weight on job title, on income. I looked at all the external things as extremely desirable and valuable in my personal trajectory. Once I achieved them and still didn't feel really happy and was kind of scratching my head like, what am I missing here? I've got the money now. I've got the title. I have all the responsibility. I'm winning all the awards. What am I missing? And that started me down a different path, which led me to doing charity work, which led me, took me down a very different road, which opened my eyes to a lot of different things. One of which was investing in myself. And that's when, a year before I got fired, I launched my personal brand. And I did it in a really big way. I invested a lot of money in my website and my social media, et cetera. And that's kind of what landed me getting fired a year later, which took me down. I tell everyone this, it wasn't rejection, it was redirection. So in any moment in your life, you can feel like, oh, rejected, I'm devastated. but actually what you don't know, and you said this earlier, which is that you'll see in the future how those dots connect, but it's impossible to see how they're going to connect right now. You have to have faith in yourself and just keep moving forward.
So beautiful said and so articulated well. Redirection. It's like when something happens, like I always say, like, what's the reframe? How can we look at this from a different perspective? It's the same, situation, but you're just with when it comes to yours, it's like an event that took place or something that transpired that you thought might have been devastating, but it really is actually an opportunity with a different perspective.
Yeah. And to your point about reframe, my biggest reframe I've ever made was when I first got fired. People were saying, "Oh my gosh, how embarrassing. You got fired. I feel so bad for you." And I remember sitting on my couch and I was mortified at first, right? I'd never been fired from anything. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is embarrassing. But then the longer I sat on that couch and thought about it, I'm like, is it really? No, I didn't do anything wrong. It would have been embarrassing if I had embezzled millions of dollars and was a criminal that, deserved to be fired. I was I was someone who did an exceptional job, who overachieved, who, brought a lot of joy and good to a company. However, I was no longer the right fit. Now that there was a new CEO, that woman hated me. So I wasn't the right fit for her anymore. That's just fact, right? That's okay. That's nothing to do about me being a bad person. So the more I kind of wrapped my head around that, and I thought, I don't need to be embarrassed that I'm not the right fit for her. She's not the right fit for me either.
Right.
So that's when I started posting, I've just been fired. And that's my ultimate reframe. Was I decided to see fired as in good company. Oprah's been fired. Mark Cuban's been fired. J.K. Rowling was fired. That's how she
Steve
launched
Jobs.
Harry Potter. So many, right? Steve Jobs was fired at a very high level in his career. So there's so many people who have been fired. And I started reframing it as I'm in good company. So if anyone's listening has been fired, you are in good company with me.
That's right. Anyone that's listening that think that they might be devastated that they got fired, it actually opens the door for an opportunity that you might not have had. So you got to embrace it and look at it from a different perspective. I love all of it.
I'll tell you, it can open up that door, but it doesn't have to. Meaning I was speaking to someone today and she was taking this very strong victim mentality. It's just so hard for me and no one understands what's happening to me. And I said, you got to pump the brakes. You need to reframe it to see it as an advantage. So start seeing it as in good company. Start researching, what did Steve Jobs do when he got fired? He didn't sit on his couch and cry. No, he went and ran another company. I think it was Pixar, right? And he blew Pixar up. So start taking a look at the stories and history out there of other people that you are in good company with. They didn't make it a victim moment. They made it a power moment where they took bigger action and went for more.
I love all of this. And something that I studied in NLP that I always teach my clients, like when something like something miraculous happens, it's not like the person that was necessarily the genius. It was the thought process and the strategy that went into it that created something like genius. So you're absolutely right. Like if we don't use the world as our playground, the joke's on us. Like people have done stuff before. Take some notes. Love that.
Oh my gosh. There's so many great people in history you can point to. You just need to go seek them out and find them.
That's right. I love it. The CLS audience is so engaging and more. They're going to fall in love with you in 2 seconds. We have 250,000 downloads already. I know they always love to get a little bit of a background. So I just want to tell you a little catch up. You grew up in Mass, correct? Massachusetts?
Worcester, Massachusetts.
Yeah. How come you don't have a Boston accent?
I've been gone I'm so proud of that, by the way. Listening to your accent, it makes me laugh. But I've been gone for so long. Oh, I have to tell you this funny story. I moved away for work when I was 24. I think I was 24 years old. I had, this was another rejection to redirection story. My boyfriend at the time that I lived with, that I thought I was going to marry, cheated on me. And I caught him cheating on me. I was devastated, literally went to work the next day. I was in radio sales and the owner said to me, I can tell something's really wrong with you. If you want to jump on a plane with me, you can't ask where I'm taking you, but know that I'm going to make you my partner in the company. You'll be my equity partner. You're going to run your own company and I'm going to make you the wealthiest young lady that you know. Do you want to jump on the plane? And because I had been rejected or redirected, I said, yes, get me out of here. I don't want to be here right now. I'm devastated. I jumped on a plane. He dropped me off in Saginaw, Michigan, and I took over a $25 million operation, turned it into a $55 million operation in under 3 years and netted the company $30 million. So
yeah.
but that all happened because this guy cheated on me, I was devastated. And I would have never left otherwise. And then fast forward, I ran into that same guy a couple of years ago at a wedding. And I was so grateful that I didn't end up marrying him. I was like, oh my God, thank you, Lord, for this redirection.
I love it. And look, the same thing with me. Like, I was a business owner in Manhattan in finance, and straight up, if the pandemic hadn't occurred, I wouldn't have had, which at the time, last March, was what I thought was a 2-week window to kind of reassess and ask myself the tough questions. Am I fulfilled? Am I happy? And the answer was no. Then I put myself in this frequency to kind of start the podcast and the mindset coaching and all that. But truth be told, if that window didn't open, I would have still been going, go, go, go. So there's always a redirection, but you have to look for it.
Absolutely. And what a blessing for you.
Yeah, 100%. So what happened with that company when you doubled up the revenue for that company? Did you stay there long, or did you go to something else?
No, so we sold that company, and because we sold to another owner. And so I left there and I moved to Florida to run an operation. I took a step back in my career to get into a bigger opportunity. I saw a publicly traded company. It was a national company. And I thought, oh, I should run this company. I went in there, I took a smaller job. I said, if I do really well in a short window of time, I want the ability to revisit my advancement in the company. I was meeting with the president of the company. He said, sure, no problem. I took over this one operation. I turned it into number one in the company in under a year. I called him. I said, of course I did. I said, let's meet for lunch, because if you're going to ask someone for something important, you need to be face to face with them so you can read their body language, connect with them and whatnot. And so I sat across from him. I had prepared so much, Craig. I had built out, a whole plan of this vision that I had for the company, where I could take it from a revenue perspective, what potential objections he may have. I put myself in his shoes. I knew him by this point. I knew he had a fear of change. I knew he didn't want to work hard. I knew everything. Like, I knew what I was doing going into this pitch. I sit across from him. I said, listen, I'm here today to thank you for the opportunity I've had. And he's going on and on. You were amazing. You're number one in that company. You're great. Blah, blah, blah. Great. I said, to that end, I have a bigger idea here on how we can potentially double the company's revenues. We were doing 100 million annually back then. And I said, I can make you look like a complete rock star to the board. It will not take one bit of work from you. In fact, you will do less work because I'm going to do more work for you. Not only will I impact one market, I'm going to impact all of your markets and all of your revenue. And he said, okay, tell me more. And I explained to him, my idea was they didn't have a VP of sales at the time. And so I pitched him on this concept that didn't exist. And he smiled and listened. I told him how great it was going to be for him, how easy it was going to be for him, how there wouldn't be challenges, and how I would communicate effectively to him and double the company's revenue. He said, thanked me and said, for right now, we're happy with where you are. I'll think about it. I went out and I started dialing other companies, found another opportunity, because I was not going to sit around and waste my time anymore. And so I landed another job. I hadn't fully accepted it. And it was actually in Boston, and I was going to go back to Boston. So I called him. I said, I need to meet with you. It's really important. This is 2 weeks after our first meeting. And I sat down. I said, have you thought about our meeting? He said, I have. And I'm not in a position right now where I'm ready to make the change, but go back to your regular job. You're doing a really nice job. And I said, great. I said, then I'm actually here to resign today. And I've appreciated working with you. It's been great, but I'm ready for something much bigger. And I'm going to this other job and I'll be gone in 2 weeks. And he said, hang on a second. And he walked out of the restaurant. And he came back 5 minutes later and he sat down. He said, I'd like to offer you the newly created position, VP of sales. And I said, but where did you go? And he said, oh, I just had to call my dad, the CEO. I couldn't make that decision on my own. And I learned such an important position or such an important sales tip for everybody right now. Never take a no from someone who can't give you a yes. And I was sitting there pitching someone, he couldn't tell me yes. And I was pitching him and pitching him and pitching him, and I was pitching the wrong guy.
Wow. That is such a valuable lesson. Wait, repeat that one more time for the audience. Never take a no from someone who can't give you a yes.
Yes, that's exactly it. And I thought
love that.
Give me a yes, but I should have asked him. Now that in hindsight, now that I know, more about sales and some of the potential challenges, here's what I know. When I first sit with someone, and so this is how I would do it differently. If I was sitting with him at that table, I would say, I have a question for you. Shoot me straight. If I had the most unbelievable idea that was so crazy and out of the box that this company had never considered, and would affect all aspects of the company? Would you be the only person that I would need to meet with? Or would we need to meet with a couple of people to make this happen? So I would just ask in a very general way so that I could find out the true answer. Do more people need to be sitting at this table or not? And we needed one more person sitting there.
Yes, you got to get the nitty gritty. Like you have to have a sense of urgency. Like, we're not going to live twice. So if for the audience listening, if someone said, no, there's a couple of the people that would need to be here, how would you respond?
I'd say, great. Who are they? Who would we need to have here at this table? And if he said to me, why? I'd say, because I'm about to give you the biggest opportunity, and I don't want to waste your time or mine with this conversation unless we have the right people sitting here. Who do we need to call?
I love it. So straightforward and makes so much sense. So you cut off all the BS and all the fluff.
Yeah, no, that definitely is my approach. I've been told many times I'm very direct.
Good. And rightfully so. Another thing I heard you say, Heather, that hit home to me, but I want you to tell us what you mean to the audience is don't dig in the recycling bin. And I think you mean that in regards to different things. Tell us what you mean.
I could have been talking about, that's funny. No one's asked me that before. Okay, so there's a couple of things, actually more than a couple. Now I'm thinking of a few. Here's some different ways you can apply that reasoning. Everyone understands what digging in a recycling bin is, right? Getting back into your old trash that's been sitting outside. So one, you could apply that to business. And if you're in sales and you had old clients that maybe things didn't work out, and maybe you're just trying to go, be lazy and formulate some new business with someone that things fell apart on, you're digging in the recycling bin. It could be dating. If you dated someone, ex-boyfriends, and suddenly you're lonely, you're like, oh, I think I'll call this person back up. Let me go back in the recycle bin. Who's over there? Another way that I'm thinking you could look at it as well is in regards to industry, right? So for me, I was in the radio business for a long time. When I got fired, people said, go dig in the recycle bin, go look at the companies you've already worked for, go look at other radio companies, stay in the familiar old zone, right? So for me, not digging in the recycle bin meant becoming an author. Not digging in the recycle bin meant getting into speaking. So sometimes it seems the path of least resistance is to dig in that recycle bin. However, if you look back across your life and look back across, like you were saying, the growth moments and the opportunities to really go to the next level, it very rarely is about digging in the recycle bin.
I agree with you 100%. And I think of spirituality stuff when you kind of speak about this. I'm not sure about, the rest of the audience and so forth, but it's so true. A lot of times, most of the spiritual light is once we practice resistance, we acknowledge something that seems like we're supposed to do it, but take a second, resist, and then, do something that requires a little bit more effort or that's a little scarier, so to speak. And when you do that, then all of a sudden the seas begin to part, and that's where the real opportunities lie.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And of course, I have to ask you this, right? Because in regards to confidence, I know that growing up, you didn't always have a ton of confidence. If someone just listened to this podcast right now, and unless they live on the rock, they've never seen you before or heard from you before, they would think that your confidence level is a 10 out of 10, but it wasn't always like that. So how did you develop that?
Gosh, I've developed it oddly enough through a lot of failure, right? A lot of falling down. Because when you fall down, just the example of getting fired, as I began to build myself back up, I started realizing, oh my gosh, I could overcome getting fired, which seemed so big, but I'm surviving, I'm living, I'm thriving. If I can overcome that, when the pandemic hit, it was strangely set up for me that I knew I'm going to be okay. A lot of people who maybe didn't face much adversity, some of my friends, freaked out and were in massive panic mode. I didn't go there because I felt like this before. 08-09 recession. I was leading a company through a recession. We had to let go of a third of our employees. Things were bleak. I survived that. I thrived in that, and I built that company back up. I got fired. I thrived through that time. So I knew going into this, okay, I've seen this movie. It might be a different version, but I know the outcome. I'm going to be okay. And I'll tell you that the more adversity you face, the stronger you get. The more adversity and challenges that you have to take on, or that you get the opportunity to take on, the stronger you'll become. And I just saw Jesse Itzler, who I've had on my podcast and I love, I'm a big fan of. He just posted today about his son got disqualified from a swim meet and was bawling, crying, and so upset. And he was saying, what a great day for my son to learn. Yes, things didn't go your way today. Yes, you're going to get up and have another day tomorrow, and you're going to be stronger because of this failure today.
So true. And that one hits home to me as well. And again, it's like, you've been there before, you're battle tested, so to speak. So when the pandemic happened, you saw opportunity. Look, 20 years ago, that might have been the same frame for you, but you've been through some stuff, as we like to say. So now you get enthusiastic about challenges. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I definitely approach them so differently that I never used to. I never get like, oh, wait, how can I find the opportunity here? You know, the first thing I did when the pandemic hit was I said, where am I most creative? And for me, that's when I'm working out. So I went and jumped on my Peloton and I started saying to myself,
Yes.
how can you change your business right now to make money from home? How can you change? And I just said that while I was riding. And then finally it hit me. Go look at your DMs, see what people have been asking you for, see what problem you can solve people ask you for from your computer. And it took me only 20 minutes to start reading through. And I knew right away, people wanted coaching, people wanted group coaching, people wanted to know if I'd consult their company. And I never had time for that stuff previously. So I just ignored the messages or would say, I don't do that. And so I just went right to social media and said, launching my first ever coaching program. If you've been wanting to join, now's the time.
I love it. Opportunity. Fire negative people and villains from your life.
Yeah, that's one of the, for me anyways, and everyone's different, right? I'm not saying confidence is like a pill that, you know, you take one and done. It doesn't work that way. Some people are married to the most wonderful person and only have helpful family members and are surrounded by great people. They're good. That's great, but they're still not confident. Well, they have other issues. Maybe the villain for them is the one inside their own head. Maybe they're running a track of speaking negatively to themselves, even though everybody else is speaking positive to them, right? So it's about kind of knowing yourself, self-awareness, and identifying your own situation. And for me, I did that through journaling. But another way I identify who my villains are is through journaling. If I go to lunch with a girlfriend and I'm in a good mood, and then when I leave her, I'm like, oh, I feel like crap. I feel bad about myself. I would start noticing that in journaling. And I call people villains because at the end of the day, there's always a hero of a story and there's always going to be villains, right, along the way. So I'm just making it that simplistic. I believe each one of us can be the hero of our own story if we choose to, but we first have to overcome or leapfrog the villains in the way. So, for example, with the girlfriend that I have lunch with, that she feels fine when she leaves lunch with me, but I don't feel great. That person I start identifying as a villain. And again, it doesn't need to be a fight. It doesn't mean that, you know, she's bad. It just means she's not right for me.
Right.
When I leave her for whatever reason, I don't feel my best. So I need to create distance. I need to create boundaries. I need to protect myself. Sometimes it's much more in your face, like a boss that's talking down to you or disrespecting you or harassing you. Then it is fire your villain, right? Like that's not acceptable. That's not going to work for me. But really making yourself a priority, putting yourself first and speaking up for yourself to fire those villains. When you take those steps, your confidence will soar.
It's so true. And like when I first started CLS, I began to become much more conscious about this stuff. And by the way, I'm a huge journaler as well. And I love that about you. When you have an encounter with someone, I don't care who it is, if it's a friend, a family member, the doorman, the guy at the deli, anything. Ideally, you'd like to leave that in an elevated state. But if you're seeing someone and they actually have the ability to lower your state, you got to acknowledge that and try to remove that type of energy from your life, because ultimately we are at our best when we're in an elevated state. And I think you'd agree with this more than anybody. That's the type of people that you want to surround yourself with, even if it's family, whatever the case may be. It's almost like it's something personal. You just want to sit in this like bubble of serenity. I totally get it.
Yeah. And that's, you know, I noticed this weekend, that's around your surroundings, literally like where the area you're surrounded in and the people you're surrounded in. So an example to that is I was getting super stressed out here in my apartment. And I was like, you know what? I haven't been in a lot of different areas. And that's why I decided to take my son away for the weekend. But it was the perfect break that I got just to be outside, be somewhere beautiful, change the scenery, change the environment up for a minute and kind of detach from energy that I had created that was bringing me down so that I could come back with renewed energy. So I think it's your location, the places you're around, and the people.
Yes, love all of this so much. And let me know if you know a good surgeon, because you have to surgically move the smile from my face for the audience that can't see, because Heather's speaking to my soul. We have such alignment. This is great. Another thing that I saw that you talk about a lot, and one of the biggest things that I always talk about is the concept of modeling. where you grab attributes from successful people, whether it be a fictional character in a book, someone in a movie, a celebrity, anybody, somebody that does something well. You can grab their attributes and kind of mold it onto yourself. And it's not like we're taking their identity. We're just using some of the things that makes them work, or like a trait that we want to develop. And I always say, like, when I wanted confidence back in the day when I first got to Wall Street, I would model James Bond and so forth. So I saw you talking somewhere about Beyonce and Sasha Fierce, and also for the audience listening, like, talk about how effective this is to elevate your state and build confidence on command.
It's huge. And I actually have a chapter in my book, Confidence Creator, about it. And I'll share with you the story I share there, which is I was in New York and I was going to do my first international news program where I was going to be a guest. And I'm not international, right? I'm domestic as they come. And so right when I was getting out of the Uber, I get a call. Hey, Heather, I don't know if you watch this woman, but she's harsh and she's going to come at you. And I said, what is she going to come at me for? And they said, probably around international stuff. You better be prepared. You might not know the answer. So I literally have 2 minutes going up the elevator. And I thought to myself, who is one person that when someone in the media comes at them can handle when they can't answer a question, but can reframe it? And for some reason, Donald Trump came to mind for me. That guy, you can ask him anything, but if he doesn't want to answer it, he just bulldozes people and he gets away with it, right? So in my mind, I thought, okay, Heather, if you go in there, and this is another tactic, coach yourself as if you're outside of yourself. There's science to prove this works. So I'd say, Heather, you're going to go in there. If this lady comes at you and she starts talking about international, you just bulldoze her, go right back to domestic, and you bring your best Donald Trump. So I'm going to channel my inner Donald Trump. And again, this is not political. I've seen him on TV do it. So I pictured it in my mind. I went in, interview's going great. She's talking about the shortfall for compensation in the United States between men versus women. I'm well equipped to answer that question. We're having a great dialogue. She then says, well, Heather, what are your thoughts on that shortfall in Europe and beyond the UK? And can you break down those numbers for us? Well, I have no idea. She knew I had no idea, right? So I thought, I'm going to Donald Trump her. And I said, that's a fantastic question. However, I think we need to elaborate a little bit more on what our next steps are in regards to what we're doing here domestically, where it impacts both you and me. And I'd like to talk a little bit about that. And I went into this whole thing about how I thought we need to start building transparency in companies to start, showing and holding companies accountable to who actually is paying fairly and who is not. By the time I went on this rant about what I think we need to do to improve our situation in the US, she forgot about the international question. She's like, you are so right, Heather. That was such a great idea. But in my mind, I had made the decision I was going to Donald Trump her, and I had envisioned him doing that. And I was able to do something very similar when the occasion arose.
That's exactly what I believe when I teach people how to model and so forth. I haven't used Donald Trump as an example, but what you just said, the way you illustrated it, and like, it makes perfect sense. Like, you were acting how that guy would act in that scenario because you've seen him in the past. Again, not political, just it is what it is. Be successful at that, and it worked, and so effective. And you can have fun with this. Like, you can do that with anybody who's had success in certain areas that you want to kind of gravitate towards.
Well, you brought up the Sasha Fierce Beyonce, and I use that one all the time. So anytime Beyonce takes the stage, she channels her inner Sasha Fierce, which is this really outrageous, over the top, theatrical version of herself. And so I think if Beyonce, one of the most successful women in the country, needs to do that, then it's fine for me to as well. So if I'm about to take a stage, especially now that we haven't been in person in a while, and I did my first in-person event a couple weeks ago, I totally channeled my inner Sasha Fierce. And I thought to myself, you are going to come out and be, bigger than ever, larger than life, channel your inner Sasha Fierce. Beyonce does it, you're doing it too. And I took that stage like, a beast. And that for me was the moment of a year of doing it, speeches through a computer, which is very weird, right? Then to now I got used to doing it. Now I'm really good at doing a computer. You question, wait a minute, can I still do it in person? I haven't done it in a long time. It's been a year, right? So I had to give myself that boost, like you said, to model my Beyonce inner Sasha Fierce, and it definitely works.
Of course. I love that. And I love the way you just gave us a visual that. Where was the speaking engagement?
It was at an outdoor venue in South Florida for Entrepreneur Organization of South Florida. And it was so exciting. People were going crazy. I'll tell you, if you haven't been to a live in-person event yet, definitely get one on the books because it's so exciting to be back around people.
Yeah. And especially now, like everybody, there's going to be like a boom of things that people couldn't do for years. People are going to be going crazy for this. And to see you personally take the stage is obviously such a treat. And I personally can't wait to take the stage with you in the near future.
Let's do it.
Absolutely. Another thing that you said that stuck out to me and I love is don't apologize, say thanks.
Yeah, that's a big one. That really helped me in a chapter on my book, Confidence Creator, about this. For a long time, I noticed I was at the gym working out at Barry's specifically. And when we were on the treadmills, I felt really strong and confident. The minute we would move to the floor and you had to grab weights, people bump into each other. This is pre-COVID, of course. And when people would bump into me, I'd say, I'm sorry. But I started noticing I'm not the one bumping into them. They're bumping into me. They should be saying sorry, if anything. So I decided I'm not going to apologize anymore. I'm going to start with, excuse me, right? That was my first baby step. And then I acclimated and got used to that. So I stopped apologizing and I would say, excuse me. Then I noticed in other areas of my life, if I showed up late for a meeting, I'd say, I'm so sorry. And I'd go on and on, profusely apologizing about being late or being misunderstood or missing a deadline or whatever it might be. And I decided to reframe that as gratitude about the other person. Bye, sweetie. Oh, let's see, he's gone. Okay. He's a piece of work. Okay, so I would decide to reframe that as gratitude about the other person. Stop making it about yourself and instead make it about the other person and about how thankful and grateful you are. And now you turn this once negative situation or potentially negative situation where you're putting yourself beneath other people. And now you make it about them, about paying gratitude towards them, thanking them, appreciating them, and really making it a positive moment. And it works wonders.
Love all of this so much, in case the audience couldn't tell. Also, I'm a big advocate in messy action, Heather. Like, there's never going to be a perfect time, so to speak. Like, I'm not a parent, or you are, but like, I'm sure there's never a perfect time to become a parent or a perfect time to start a passion project or whatever the case may be. I love to take messy action. And I saw you talk somewhere about you'd rather have a book with a couple mistakes than no book at all. And I think that's happened to you. And like, it is what it is, but at least you had the courage to do it. And you obviously learned from it and grow from it. So many people are paralyzed by needing things to be perfect that they never actually take the action at all. And then they wake up with all this regret and so forth. Talk a little bit about messy action.
Yeah, perfectionism, which is what a lot of people call it, that's simply a cover for fear. When you strip perfectionism down, that doesn't exist. It's just, you're scared. And the more I talk to people about that, I want them, don't call it perfectionism, because that has some, idea of, wow, this person's perfect. No one's perfect. And you're only fooling yourself. You are just a scared person. So stop being scared, start reframing fear and step into it. And I used the example of my book because I do have 3 mistakes in it. And I love when people, message me, oh my gosh, you have a mistake. I'm like, oh, no way. Tell me about it. On my, listen, done will always be better than perfect in my world. And the example of the book is this, that I will always be the guy that's on her deathbed saying, I'm so glad I wrote a book with 3 mistakes. I'm so proud of myself. And I left that legacy behind, for my son, versus the person that's laying on a deathbed somewhere saying, I'm so glad I had a book inside of me, and it's still inside of me because I couldn't bring the most perfect version of it to light. And when you think of life that way, there's no comparison. And the same thing happened with my TEDx talk. I was freaking out right before giving my TEDx talk. I got really nervous. And I remember I closed my eyes and I stood there and I just said, if you go out there and blow it, I'm going to be so proud of you. If you don't go out there, you're never going to be able to live with yourself. And that's like it just takes the pressure away, right? Like I just say those 2 simple, I look at those posing, they're complete opposites. Be the person who hides away and pretends they're staying perfect, but really all you're doing is staying stuck in one familiar zone. Or be the person willing to go out there and make a mistake, but show up. And the more you do that and step into that fear, the stronger you get, and the more you get to go to that next level. And that TEDx talk that I was so scared to give was promoted to TED and translated into 6 languages. And I was backstage questioning if I could walk out there. But the point is, it's about it's not about giving a TEDx talk. It's about the moment wherever you are when you're scared, still pushing yourself to go out and try it anyways.
100%. And I feel like that's what separates like the legends, or, you know, the people that really take massive action from people who, do I dare say, underachieve, or, you know, live with regret.
Or not live up to, they don't live up to their potential. Yeah. And live with regret. Exactly.
Yeah. And for me, when I decided to go all in on CLS in the pandemic, that's the pivotal moment. And I don't think I've ever actually said this out loud, but that's what happened to me. Like, I was getting deep. I was like, if this was it for me, my funeral was in a couple of weeks. Like, I know I had some close friends and family, but what would really the world say about me? And I didn't believe I was really leaving a mark on this world like I know I'm capable of. And so I decided to go all in with this. And I said, and look, I'm very confident, but you never know exactly what's going to happen. But I said to myself, at least I can live with it, because I do have this dream. I'm going to put together a strategy and I'm going to take a shot, and let's go from there. The only thing scarier than that in my head would have been to not take the shot. I actually associated that with death. So for the audience listening, it's so valuable and so important that you bring this up.
So I had the opportunity in 2019 to interview Sarah Blakely live on stage at a sales conference in Boston. And
Yes.
she was so nice. Her team brought me all these gifts and whatnot. Anyways, the point of the story is that when I got back to the hotel room and I was putting everything in my suitcase that she had given me, I wish I had it nearby. It's like this plastic or cardboard thing. And it says, the biggest risk in life is not taking one. And I keep that with me. It's in my suitcase. So no matter where I go, when I unpack, it just reminds me, if Sarah Blakely, who is one of the most successful female entrepreneurs in the world
Ever
says the biggest risk is not taking one, I'm going to go ahead and bet she's right.
Yeah, 100%. Love this. The last thing I wanted to add to that is a little bit selfishly for me, because it really stuck out to me, is when I started my podcast, and it's still only a couple, 3 months old, whatever the case may be, but I thought very big, and I would get creative when reaching out, to who I thought would be great guests on the show. I know you've spoken about that in the past. Gary V was your first guest. Correct me if I'm wrong. And whenever you reach out, whether it be like earlier when you were talking about like that job position that didn't even exist, you always want to bring value to the table and also get creative, sort of like playing chess, so to speak, thinking 10 moves ahead, right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's the number one way. So, well, you reached out to someone that we had in common. So that's another great way when you are able to lead with a warm lead. So when I'm friends with David Meltzer and you are, and David says, hey, I need you to do this show, of course I'm going to do it, right? I do anything for David. So that's a great strategy. If you have a person in common that you can see, is in your circle of influence, that's a great strategy, number one, because it also lets people know, oh, they're a good person. It's worthwhile. It makes sense. Okay, they're endorsed. That's a great way. Another way is to bring some kind of value. So with Gary, I took out a Google alert on his name, and anyone that you're trying to target, I strongly suggest taking out a Google alert, because you'll be up to speed on everything going on in their life. You can reach out and congratulate them. Hey, I saw you just won this award. Hey, I wanted to, post about this because I'm so happy for you. Resharing and reposting people's content's another small way to help them. But for me, one of the things that I saw is that he was launching a wine company. I used to be in the wine business right when I graduated college. So I knew I could add value and help from personal insight. And I found out he had a partner, and I thought a partner is going to be way easier to get to than Gary. So I DM'd the partner on LinkedIn, and so he could see that I'm a real person that has, business acumen. He responded right away. I'm like, yeah, I'd love to help you. Let me jump on a call with you and give you a couple of insights if you have, 15, 20 minutes. We jumped on a call. I shared with him everything that I knew. He was so grateful. And at the end, he said, Heather, if there's ever anything I can do for you, just let me know. I'd love to help. I said, funny that you asked. Yeah, I'd love it if you could get Gary Vee as a guest on my podcast. And he's like, oh, you got me. And it was funny. And we've become friends since. And we've done other things together. And then Gary put me on his show, and I got to know the team. And of course, I always want to add value any way that I can. I'm always supporting his content, always talking about, how great he was to help me. He reposted that for my show so many times. So put good out into the world, do good work, and help, in hopes that you can help other people, not in hopes that just, hey, I'd like to get this. But if you just keep showing up and doing good, a domino effect will occur that will definitely benefit you in the end.
Bang. I'll ask you this one last question. People always ask me, and My answers aren't always the most sexy because I get a lot of different inspirations from different parts of life. Have to ask you for your perspective. Who are some people over the years that really inspire you? Maybe some people that you sharpen the axe to, or they get you really excited to take massive action.
Well, I already mentioned Sarah Blakely. I thought,
Yes.
she's so inspirational. Also, Oprah, right? Being a Black female breaking into the TV business when she did, I mean, that's what she's paved a whole other way for everyone, right? It like doesn't matter your background, your ethnicity, whatever. And so there's a lot of people in our world that will say, oh, women can only, rise to this level, or this color can only rise to this level. I love those people who just are not, they don't fit the bill, but they don't let anyone stop them. That motivates me coming out of corporate America and not knowing if I'm successful over here, maybe I'm only meant to be successful here, right? Like, can you translate that here? So, I hope, to inspire other people, and I'm inspired by so many people that I see all around me.
And you're inspiring me right now, and you're going to inspire at least 250,000 people who listen to this show.
Oh, and I'm so grateful for that opportunity. Thank you.
I know they're going to fall in love with you in 2 seconds. Make it easy for them. Where can they keep up with you? Where can they support you? How can they follow you? Where do you hang out the most?
So my website is heathermonahan.com. I am on Clubhouse every Wednesday at 8 p.m. for a live Q&A. My podcast is Creating Confidence with Heather Monahan. My book is Confidence Creator, and I'm at Heather Monahan on all social media.
I love it. And for the audience, we know you're very engaged and loyal. Don't be shy. Go say hello to Heather. Comment on her Instagram. She will not bite. She will say hello. She's very warm and friendly, right?
Of course. And I definitely am on LinkedIn the most, though. I'm more than Instagram.
Okay, cool. I love all of this. Heather, I just want to say, you don't shy away from your challenges as they've shaped you. It's something I find very relatable and liberating. You are the definition of resilience, grit, and heart, from overcoming adversity and firing the villains from your life to creating confidence while being a beacon of hope and inspiration to millions worldwide. You empower others to live their best life, and I couldn't be more excited to continue to watch you fly. I could personally guarantee your best is yet to come. You're someone I admire, I appreciate, and I respect very much. And you have my word right here, right now. This will absolutely not be the last time that you and I collaborate.
Oh, well, I look forward to it, Craig. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Heather.